Welcome to the Kahler Podcast, episode 12. Today, we got quite a story that happened in Frankfurt, Germany. But first, viewer comments. How you doing, Gary? You ready?
We're ready this morning. Let's go.
All right. Scott C. says, Eddie, Gary, these are continuing to be quite interesting, info-filled, and fun. Thank you both. Eddie, the Kuharas were cool. I had a DG in candy apple red with gold rims, brakes, handlebars, and my brother had an FMF red anodized aluminum frame with tough wheels.
That don't sound like a tremolo to me.
No, it is not. He is referring to that BMX thing from earlier. Boy, and I wanted a Kuhara. What I actually had was a Montgomery Ward copy of a Huffy. You had a kid that raced BMX for a little while, right?
Yeah, my oldest son was a BMX. He got a whole room full of trophies.
Yeah, that must be nice.
Well, it was a lot of work, a lot of traveling in a motorhome. You had to go to all these different venues in order to that starting gate at the head of the hill when that board drops and boom, there it goes.
The neighborhood that I grew up in, we had a pack of honest to God professional BMX racers and
Professional. Oh my God.
It was very fancy. We even had a little makeshift track in an empty lot where a house was later built. It has nothing to do with whammy bars though. So moving on.
Well, they could put a whammy bar on there somewhere.
There you go. We should do that.
They could be wanging away, as they're racing.
Oh, that'd be the dumbest thing ever. I kind of want to do it now. That would be
stupid, wouldn't it? Yep. Yep.
Garrett Boomerbender says, killer episode. I love Gibsons and I love Kahlers. Match made in heaven. Speaking of Gibson and Kahler, Taylor Young of the Pit Recording Studio, Twitching Tongues, Dead Body, Zouse, etc. owns many Kahler-equipped Gibsons, as well as some Strats and a custom Dunnable Flying V with a gold Kahler. I would love to see him on an episode, even if it's just a quick Zoom call, because he's one of the very few modern players that truly champions Kahler. Do you know who Taylor Young is?
Well, all I know is that Taylor rhymes with Kahler, and I'm really he's nice that he's playing a Gibson and a Kahler.
Yeah. No.
That's what I know about him.
There you go.
There's hundreds of these people out there that play Kahlers that we really don't know about. We got 1,200,000, about 63,000 people playing Kahlers out there now. And yes, I'd sure like to meet this man. That's good.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. It is extremely easy to get a hold of us. And if you play a Kahler and you're interested in coming on the podcast, shoot me an email at eddie@kahlerusa.com. Butch Lauer. Sorry, Butch. Butch Lauer. We'll go with that. Dude, I have an 83 Explorer CMT that I got as a shell with a Kahler route. I've collected 3 of the Gibson branded Kahlers, a couple Les Paul pickups, some Schaller tuners on the other side of the string lock, and bam, rock and roll machine. Yeah, that's obviously a reference to the Explorer that I just put that 2200 on.
Yeah, right.
Very, very cool. That guitar turned out great.
I think he said he has collected 3 Gibson branded Kahlers.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Well, there's only 500 of them in the world.
Yep.
So they're worth considerable money in themselves. We've seen them go on eBay for $600-700 and even more.
Anytime you can find one of those Gibson branded Kahlers, snatch it up.
My hat's off to Gibson because that's how we got started. We needed Gibson's money. And we did, and it was a good deal for both of us.
Well, I'd really like to see some 2300s and 2200s back on some Gibsons. I think that'd be really cool.
Well, we'll work on that.
Great Gunter 698 says, glad Mr. Kahler's bringing these superior trims back. Finally got some parts needed for my Spider on my Vandenberg. Would Kahler build a custom order killer if one paid for it? I think I already know the answer to that question, but Gary, you want to answer that?
If we don't have the bodies, we can't build it because that was a very special sintered metal kind of deal. So expensive that I had to stop making them. But I may or may not have the parts to build one. I just really don't know. I have to look into it.
Funny enough, right now on eBay, there are actually 2 7-string killers. And one guy wants $1,000 for one, and the other guy wants $2,000.
7 strings.
7 strings, and you only made what, about maybe 10 of those at the most?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean,
they were all custom. I would have milled those myself.
Probably the easiest way to get a killer would be to get one, off of eBay, Reverb, something like that. But I don't know, maybe.
Well, email me. Tell me what the detail is that you want. You want a 6-string, 7-string? What color do you want it? If you don't mind tool marks on it, possibly. I do have some parts, so email us and let us know.
There you go. Sales@KahlerUSA.com. If you want a killer, first come, first serve. If we can even do it. I'll tell you what, though, if you can pull off getting a new Kahler killer, man, that's really something. Timothy Darby 9604 says, "This is the best company. The 2300 is a masterpiece. I've heard of the Kahler golf clubs. Just throwing around an idea. Some Kahler drum hardware would be unbeatable. The metal used for these bridges is perfect for a lot of drum pieces. I know it's a long shot, but if you don't ask, you don't get."
I don't know a damn thing about drumming. All I do is watch people.
Yeah.
And do it. Like you. I know you got 2 really expanded, huge sets of drums.
I do.
And I think the drumming experience I have is beating on pots and pans when I was a young kid.
That's how it starts.
However, I can appreciate the hardware. There is some very sophisticated hardware on drums.
There really is.
And it's got to be strong. You got to have the right clamps, got to have all of that to get the right positions, but then it got to hold up and not break. So there's a lot of steel involved there, not just not just Zamek zinc.
Yeah, there's a lot of the clamps and things like that. They look really, really beefy and very, very impressive. But if you over tighten them, they snap, and you're like,
oh, they're
made out of zinc. Man, I tell you what, they really, drum hardware is so expensive. And I started on drums back in 1982, and yeah.
What'd you do? Did you play Singleton, Ludwig? What? Did you play American drums or offshore?
My first drum set was just this horrible concoction. I had two of the same size Gretsch toms that had 5 lugs, so they were really odd. They had an odd number of lugs, and then a 13-inch Slingerland snare, and this great big ugly bass drum that was painted green, and it said the Evergreen Hoedowners on the front of it.
Well, you must have bought them in pieces, maybe from a pawn shop, some of them.
Actually, I got them.
That's how a lot of people got started.
They were given to me by my sister's best friend's brother, who took pity on me because we were so ridiculously
but
poor.
He didn't know anything about a tremolo bar then, did he?
No.
All right. So what about tremolo bars?
Yeah. Okay. So there we go. No drum hardware. It's a shame. I got some pretty progressive ideas with that. Once the drums are set up and everything too, we'll do a little tour of them. I've got a ridiculous drum set.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
It really is.
I agree. It takes up a whole damn room.
It really does. Dominion Fretwork says, "I still want a 2700. I will pay for one. Black. There are those that want the best." Okay, which 2700 though? Because the 2700 covers Killer, Spider, and Steeler, right?
Yeah, that's a series he's talking about.
Yeah.
So you can go to the website and see if there's anything on the website that he likes, and if there's something there that isn't there, then drop us an email.
I was thinking about this earlier. So we have 4 different versions of the 2 reissue Steelers. So that's 8. Plus 2 versions of the original Steeler with auto latch and without. So that's 10 just of the Steeler. Then we have, as far as I know, just the 2 killers, the 7-string and the 6-string, right?
Well, that's what we need to know specifically.
Right.
So,
but then the Spider, we've got the reissue, the original one with the extra intonation and radiusing screws, and the single locking one that has killer parts on it.
Yeah, you've got all kinds of choices there, and you can decide how you want, what you want. And if there's something you don't see there, then let us know. We can even do combinations of what you see.
Let me ask you, let's be real clear. So are you saying that if somebody wanted a single locking Spider with killer parts, if we have the parts, you'll put one together for them?
That'd be difficult because the killer parts don't necessarily fit on the Steeler plates.
Spider plate.
All right, Spider plate, still a problem.
Yep. Yeah, well, they do exist though, but there was a lot of modification to get them to work, I believe.
That takes a lot of time. First of all, a lot of these parts, although we have them cataloged well in our carousels, we just don't have that many parts left, and generally they're not in the right color. So we're looking at something that was produced, 35, 40 years ago.
Yep.
And we're kind of saying, okay, well, where the hell's that part? And then you might find all the parts but one. All right, now, can we make that part? Yeah, probably we can. If it's a fastener, can we buy that part? Yeah, we probably can. But then you go to people like the fastener people that supply us, say, what are you asking for, Kahler? Yeah, you want 3 of these? What are you, nuts?
If you're serious, once again, Gary just said, and I kind of can't believe it, he's got killer parts. He'll put them together for you if you're willing to pay and all this other stuff.
Well, we just kind of know what exactly do you want. That's the important part.
Yeah.
And when we do this, remember, if we have plated old parts and stock vintage parts, they're not going to look real fancy with in color. The chrome is going to be a little bit out there. The black is going to be whatever it is. The gold is going to look like brass. I mean, these are old parts.
Yeah.
40 years old. Now, we can go strip them and replate them and all that. Very expensive. And I don't recommend that at all.
For anybody that's thinking, wow, that sounds really cool, sales@KahlerUSA.com. First come, first serve. Eric Sanders, 5357, says, not had a Kahler on anything yet. I believe it to perhaps be my Grail. Got a Bigsby, okay, a knockoff, but wow, have it set to bend up without losing its compression spring. A Floyd built under license, yada yada, not even installed at the moment, like we have enough of those. I love the Wilkinson plate. I see a few on your rack, maybe. Yeah, I got a few Wilkinsons. Love the 6-point, floated, of course. Have you seen what Geiger's up to nowadays? Pretty sweet, but yeah, potential Grail. Found one on eBay for around $150. Licensed? Okay. We'll make this really easy. There are no licensed Kahlers. There's not one licensed Kahler out there. Such a beast doesn't exist. It's either a real Kahler or a counterfeit, correct?
Yep. It'll be a counterfeit, particularly if it has our name Kahler on it. Counterfeiters don't care. They just, they do that, and then when it all breaks, they call us, costs us a lot of money, take care of that because it's all metric. And so that ends up being a lot of bullshit that we got to handle day in and day out. And I'm pissed off about that. I get tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, I bet you do. And we're going to hear just how pissed off Gary can get a little bit later here. Okay, Mr. Prophet 9127 says, I just have to say I love my flyers. Yes, it would be nice to upgrade the saddles, but overall the quality is still top tier in my opinion. The only thing I would like to have on my flyers, the ability to drop one of those little tiny strings inside the whammy bar hole to adjust the bar tension. Then there'd be no need for a clutch. Anyways, thank you guys for continuing to educate the masses. That hole is just it's a void. There's no bottom to it, so you can't drop a spring in there. Can't do it.
That's right.
It is, you got to have the clutch in order to do that. And we need that hole to go all the way through in order to, do the different bar options.
First of all, I appreciate him saying about that he likes the bridge. Thank you for that. That's older technology, and it was a big deal at the time.
A couple podcasts back, we had somebody who said we have to admit the flyer was a mistake. And I disagree. Respectfully, I disagree. I think that the flyer is a great bridge without any upgrades, although I do prefer it to have a clutch. But I can deal with the saddles. However, the lockdown saddles with the forks is just way better.
Before we go out and bitching about that, I would just like to say that was great technology at the time. Everything evolves. We hope everything evolves for the better. And that's why we had that special podcast on the flyer. So if you don't like it, then get rid of it and buy a different Kahler with a lockdown saddle set.
There you go.
That's what you like.
Mercutio UK 2006 says episode 10, and they're all informative. The information on the strings is incredibly handy. Cheers for the content. Yeah, those Diodario NYXL strings that have that whatever it is that they do there towards the end. I put a set on. They work great.
Well, if you like them, buy them. They work for you. It's just, they're a very progressive company. We like Diodario. All the execs have always treated me good, and I got great respect for those guys.
The guy who gave us that information, too, also said SIT strings, which SIT stands for Stay in Tune.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey, that's new to me. Stay in tune.
Yeah, Stay in Tune strings. Although most people would be like, doesn't that just mean sit?
Originally, when Dave Story first come to work with us, we had a Staying in Tune information that we put out once a month. Yeah, it was a little paper and published it. It was called Staying in Tune. That was always interesting. David had something to say in there most of the time. So did I, and I think so did David Petchelot, some of the things that went on at the time.
Yeah.
That's before we had the internet, before we had this easy way of communicating, so they say, if you can afford all the equipment and everything and the expertise. I guess that's why you're here. I don't know. Are you doing good?
Well, don't tell my boss, but I'm just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. I got to say this though about before the internet, I remember before there were even cordless telephones. Gary tells me stories about back when they had a party line. That must have been interesting.
Well, the party line was when I lived on a farm, and of course there were 14 people out in the country. They're all on the same line.
Yeah,
and of course the way the phone would ring, it'd be longs and shorts. For the life of me, I can't remember what it is now, but ours was maybe 2 longs and 1 short.
Yeah.
Well, that meant that's our phone. We answered. So whoever was more interesting in the pot, everybody was just listening. So half the people in the county know what the hell was going on in your family, but we didn't give a damn.
Little side comment about SIT strings. We actually do have a couple sets of the Glenn Fricker signature SIT strings. Moshe, our sales manager, and one heck of a guitar tech as well. He's got dealer status with SIT. He sent me a couple sets, and I think I'll set up that Flying V with the Kerry King 2300 on it.
Well, let's do that and see how it works.
Yeah. Greg Curtin 9598 says, are there specific modes of Kahler tremolos that are typically counterfeited? I.e., typically it'll be the 2300 series, or are the counterfeit items cover any and all models across the board and all styles of the Kahler tremolo bridges? Just the cam stuff is all I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's
right?
Well, the cam stuff, you can buy a Fulcrum locked down for $20 to
you can
evidently $1,000. So what do you want? There's no reason to. It's already being out there. In the case of the Kahler, yeah, it's all cam stuff. But for the most part, what's being counterfeited is the X-trem, the 3-hole cam, that kind of thing. And that's always been the case. And, you stop one and you got 3 others doing it. I mean, it's just, it's pretty bad, actually. It isn't only from China. It's coming in from Indonesia, China, Vietnam, Russia, believe it or not.
At least Takeuchi didn't put the Kahler name on there.
The mark was registered in Japan at that time, and they're sophisticated enough. They know they couldn't do that, because then we could have stopped it, legally stopped it at port of entry.
That right there was the last comment, and that brings us up to what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to start this off by saying that I've already told this story in the very first thing that Gary and I ever did, where we talked about counterfeits and that case in Japan. Gary doesn't really like it when I say the F word, so I will just say go watch that one. We'll put a link in here. But what we're going to talk about today is a guitar show in Frankfurt, and I know, Gary, you really kind of don't want to talk about this because it's not exactly something you're proud of.
Only reason we're talking about it is because there's got a few people that keep asking us and want to set it straight. The fact is, it's the early 80s. And I'm in Frankfurt, Germany. I'm there with my family because we plan to tour Japan, Korea afterwards, and maybe go skiing in Switzerland at that time. But so we're there, and I walk around the floor at the Frankfurt show, and I see nothing but counterfeits everywhere. And this is in the early 80s. I can't even tell you what year specifically it was. The fact is, there were so many counterfeits. And it seemed like every booth that was selling any kind of guitar had some counterfeit on it of a Kahler. I just walked up to all these booths. I was so pissed off and said, "I tell you what, I'm going to be back the next couple of hours, and if that guitar is still you're still showing this guitar, I'm going to break the neck off your fucking guitar." So you take it from there and decide what you want to do. And then I walk away whether they spoke English or didn't. Strangely enough, when I went back, maybe 2-3 hours later, they may still be there. And I said, "I'm going to give you a last chance here. You can either," "Well, you can't do that." I said, "Well, I'm going to do it." And so I broke the neck off about 3 guitars and 3 different things. And then I was turned into the police, or whatever you call them. So I had to be a jailbird there in a holding pen at the deal.
I mean, obviously counterfeits. So I'm guessing these are Takeuchi counterfeits, and you're currently suing them, or are you doing?
No, we had at that point in time we hadn't really done much of that, or we were in the middle of it. I can't remember exactly. Before I went to Frankfurt, I'd been to Tokyo, and all the retail stores they'd have a half a dozen Kahler counterfeits or more in all the stores. They were selling them retail. They didn't give a damn. I didn't speak Japanese. That's why I sent my son over there so he could get smart and learn Japanese, which he did. He went to Sophia University. So later on, he was able to help with some of this. It was written about in a couple of magazines, not in the U.S., but in Europe. Anyway, they got the message. I'm not very proud of that, but I don't know what the hell do you do? I mean, you spend years and years developing something. You go and then you find somebody that just buys one damn piece, and then they send it to a manufacturer and say, "Copy this." Well, it all ended up to be it was actually an American that did that in the U.S., and we had to trace it back through all the lawsuits. We found out that they had bought it from a distributor in California, and then sent it to Takeuchi. And they say, "Well, shit, yeah, I'll make it." So he made them, and then when we finally got into the lawsuits and everything else, they had sold over 20,000 units before we had even sold. We had sold just over 1,000, and that's how fast they got it on the market, which destroyed my distribution in the United States, because at that time we could do franchises or at least exclusive distribution. So I had exclusive distribution or franchising in all the major cities. Well, all of a sudden, these counterfeits come out, and their competitor across the street was able to buy them. And as a result, the people that I had deals with just sent my product back. I had more coming back than we were shipping out. So I'm almost bankrupt at that time due to the counterfeiters. All I can say is everything comes to a head there in the early 80s. And the Frankfurt show was just enough of that shit. I had enough of it.
Well, and you had an interaction with one of the police in there. We asked you, what did he ask you? Something like, why would you do such a thing? Or
well, he said, why would you do such a thing? I said, because it's counterfeit. So I take a $100 bill, which may have been my last $100 bill. Anyway, I showed it to him. I said, it's no different than taking this $100 bill and just copying it and counterfeiting it. Take your yen and counterfeit it. Well, how is that? Well, this belongs to me. It doesn't belong to other people. So they just make it look exactly the same and take it for their own. That's counterfeit. They're robbing a bank. After some conversations with this particular gentleman, was a decent guy, spoke good English. And he says, that doesn't sound right to me. So we went back to the booth, and he says, well, what about this and this and that? Well, believe it or not, he had taken the counterfeit off of his floor.
I imagine he did.
Please let me go, and I went about my own way. And it's just devastating when you see something like that, because you put so much money into stuff. All the money you got, you borrow money from everybody to try to get ahead and do it, and then you find everybody just copies it. You think, oh my God, I'm out of business. Well, this shit's been going on for 50 years.
Yeah.
Ever since that day, it's never stopped. And so some people wonder, well, why the hell do I do that? Why do I even want an American company? I'll tell you what, one American company, because we're Americans, we are not living in Asia, and it's our responsibility to put people to work and also invent things and do things.
So I'm holding a Takeuchi counterfeit in my hand right now, and other than any kind of marks that would say Kahler, it really looks exactly.
No, they didn't have to put Kahler on it. At that time, that bridge was so unique, everybody recognized it. So then what they did, they put it out for private label to OEM factories so they could put their name on it. Yeah, so we've got all kinds of names that were stamped on that.
That is just really something.
And not only that, they were going to distributors in the United States. Anybody knows about distributors in the 80s, they were the bank for many retailers. So every distributor would have 200, 300 retailers they were dealing with. Well, hell, it goes to a distributor. They immediately got huge markets. And then they distribute them on the retailers. And now all of a sudden the retailers are after us, saying, how stupid are you, Kahler, that you got to charge this much for it? And look at here, I have one just like that, and I can buy it for 40% less. I can make more money on a counterfeit. So screw you. We're not going to buy an original Kahler. So then I had to go there and stop Takeuchi from doing this at the source, only to find out that Americans were behind the whole damn thing.
If you look at the back of these things here, this is like the major difference. This one right here is a Kahler. This one right here is the counterfeit. And you can see that the Kahler, the spring's attached to the plate. And with the counterfeit, there's this big brass thing. And it looks like there's even some kind of, I don't even know. I don't want to give this thing too much credence. One thing that's really weird is the string lock. This particular counterfeit, I see all the time people trying to pass off as an authentic Kahler, and it's easy to tell that it's not, because a real one doesn't have the little thing right here in the middle. On one side, it's missing. The JT6, they copied it too really bad. Those are easy to tell as well.
I'm going to make very clear that we got a whole lot of greedy sons of bitches that want to just take something, go buy at a retail store, discuss it in their bedroom, and send it to a foreigner and say, make me a couple thousand of these so I can make, tens of thousands of dollars on somebody else's work. this has got to be stopped. And it's everywhere. I'm doing my best to make people aware of it because I've put up with it for 45 years. Nobody has had to put up with that shit like I have, and I'm tired of it.
I think that's pretty much all there is to say about the Frankfurt show, unless you want to end it with something nice, like, and then we went skiing in Switzerland and had a great time.
Yeah, well, that's what we did. And I have pictures of that and pictures of a lot of other stuff we really did. But what I thought would really be a celebration, wasn't that big a celebration. We've been watching the Olympics. I mean, the dedication that these athletes put into what they do is just phenomenal to me. And the dedication they make every single damn day to be as good as they are. I'm going to tell you, a lot of people in this company are the same way. And I don't compare myself at all to those people, but I got to tell you, I have stayed the direction in making America-made stuff and then developing our company in a way that isn't just one piece or one style. What we're trying to do is develop a line for everybody, and that's what we're really trying to do. I mean, multi-string, multi-scale, both bass and lead guitar, both fulcrum and cam, and they are American-made. And you're putting Americans to work. That's very important. Not only this generation, but the next generation and the generation after that.
Just so you guys know, we have so many things that we're R&Ding right now that we can't even talk about until we've got patents and different things like that. But we got a handful of really cool stuff coming up. I mean, we've got a 4-string ukulele Kahler whammy bar.
That's right. I've also made that. Yep.
That'd be, oh man, maybe we need to come up with something for a banjo.
Yeah, well, maybe so. Who knows?
You know what?
If you're a banjo player, tell me what you're interested in.
I'll tell you what. You know who I would love to see have a whammy bar that's a banjo player would be Bela Fleck. Are you familiar with him?
No, I'm not.
That's where Victor Wooten, really made a name for himself in the beginning, was Bela Fleck's band. Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. It was Bela Fleck on banjo, Victor Wooten and his brother Future Man.
Yep.
Have you seen Future Man and that crazy drumitar thing that he made?
Yeah.
That thing is so crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, I'll tell you, they're great people, man.
And you know what? Bela Fleck, he's right up there with Victor and the Wooten brothers. I mean, he is that good of a banjo player. We should really try to get a hold of Bela Fleck and make him a whammy bar.
Well, right now, we just appreciate people buying our stuff and taking a look at what we got. We're working hard to make product that makes sense. That's all.
Absolutely. And that feels like a pretty good place to stop. So until next time, I've been Eddie Kernan.
And I'm Gary Kahler. And I'll thank you for listening.
See you next week.